Now, this is where things change. In 2009, he fails a powerlifting drug test. Fails. He failed the drug test. Coach Greg, and I am here today to talk to you about a YouTuber named Greg Doucette. A lot of requests lately have been, is Greg Doucette natural? Is he enhanced? Does he take SARMs? What the heck is up with this guy? So I'm going to get right into it and explain everything about this guy and explain why I know he's not natural. But I'm also going to answer, when do I think he became enhanced? Because this guy, he claims he was natural growing up and training. He did like 42 natural shows. And like, what are we going to believe? Do you really think this guy was natural growing up? I'm going to answer the questions. I'm going to give you the evidence, see what you think, and you can come up with your own conclusion on what you think based on the arguments that I make. Okay, just a background. He's got around 55,000 followers on Instagram, so not really that popular. Like maybe 125,000 followers on YouTube. So not really famous. Most of you probably never heard of him. Okay, so just a little bit about him. He's an IFBB Pro bodybuilder turned pro in 2012. He's also a world record holder in powerlifting. Competed quite a bit of times, like 58 in bodybuilding and like 70 in powerlifting. So the guy's 44 years old, 5'6¼ He's currently 189 pounds in the morning, and his off season, he's been as big as 232 chubby pounds. He has like the most annoying voice on YouTube. He sounds like that parrot from Aladdin. Hey, oh, shut up, you moron! Gilbert Godfrey on steroids. That's basically what I get out of this guy. I know quite a bit about him because I did do a lot of research on it. I find him really cocky, but at the same time, he's just like very open and honest. So despite him being a cocky guy, like he thinks he's like so strong and breaks all these records, he's just telling you what he literally thinks, and that's just how he is. He's so annoying. He's always screaming and cocking stupid and calling his audience a bunch of morons. No, that's moronic. It's so stupid. So stop quoting. You guys, so many people aren't intelligent enough to read a friggin' study. She is an idiot. 3 minutes in the video and she's already insane. People who say that are so stupid, making fun of people. And so that's kind of what this guy does. He's just a little manlet. He probably has small testicles. He's famous for like eating popcorn and French toast. So, I mean, really, how did he expect to put on any muscle natural if he eats like that? Come on, Greg. So when you want to see if somebody's natural, you go way back to when they were young and examine their pictures to kind of see what kind of genetic potential do they have. If they were like jacked at a really young age, it's more likely that they were able to put on muscle naturally. So what did I do? I went back and looked at his childhood pictures and examined them. And what I found was he had quite a bit of muscle, certainly more than the average, probably more than 95 to 99% of people his age, he was more developed than. So that's a sign that he probably could have developed a decent amount of muscle naturally. He started training at the age of 10, seriously. I mean, I don't know if we can take this guy's word for it. Did he really train hard at 10? How do we know for sure? I mean, whatever. He claims that he's been training since 10 years old, that he started with his father and his twin brother in his basement, and was on a 3-day full body split, training each body part 3 days a week. And really heavy, sets of 6. Back then, I guess they didn't know how to train. They didn't know the scientific principles of muscle growth and were following some old program from like the 1970s or something like that. So he's age 10, he's 80 pounds, and then after 6 months, his dad gets injured, his bicep, and then stops training. And so then the kids, this Greg guy and his twin Allen, they're told, yeah, you can't train anymore in the basement because it's not safe. You need parental supervision. So what does this Greg guy do? He sneaks in the basement and trains after school before his parents, who are school teachers, get home. So he's already a liar. Even at 10, he's lying to his parents about not training. And so, I mean, come on. How can we take this guy's word for he's already a liar at 10? Fast forward a few years, the dude goes through puberty at like 12 years old. And by 13, he reaches his full height of 5'6.25". And he thinks he has good genetics. He's 5'6.25", little manlet boy. Thinks he has muscles. Moron. So at 13, he's a massive 128 pounds, yet he claims to have benched 232. Are we going to believe these numbers? I mean, he already lied about training in the basement alone. He wasn't supposed to. He's claiming he could bench press that much. I don't know, 13-year-old benching that at that age, sounds enhanced. But I looked at the pictures and there was no formation of gyno whatsoever. And now remember, this guy is old. He's 44 years old. So when he was 13, that's 30 years ago. That is before the invention of SARMs. That is before the internet. At 13, this guy didn't even have internet. He couldn't have Googled online, oh, what website can I order this stuff from? Let me get some of that rad. Nope, it wasn't any of that. All you could ever get was steroids. And guess what? At 13, in a small town where no one is using them, I really don't think he would have got into that. Plus, he wasn't even drinking alcohol. He wasn't doing anything. He was a Mr. Goody Two-Shoes type of guy, not really getting in any trouble at a young age. So I tend to believe him that at 13, he was natural. I mean, it's not like he put on 1,000,000 pounds of muscle. It's not like he's giant. But I did see his pictures that he did have quite a bit of muscle. However, that's 3 years of training already. And he's already gone through puberty. And he has good genetics. So I tend to believe him at this point that he's still natural. Fast forward a few years, he's now 17 years old, and he benches 293 pounds. 293 at 146 pounds. So strength-wise, that is highly suspicious. That's over a double body weight bench press at 17 years of age. But he only put on, in those 4 years, 16 pounds of body weight. 4 years, 16 pounds. That's 4 pounds per year. For a teenager training hard. I don't know, that doesn't even seem impressive. I expect him to gain more. How is he only 146 pounds? Where is the muscle? For a guy who trained hard for 7 years, who was athlete of the year 3 years in a row in high school and was like Mr. Fitness and all he did was train and was into triathlons and cycling and swimming. The guy played every sport imaginable. It seems like he should have put on more muscle. So if he did that with enhancements, how pathetic would that be? Like, to me, that's like, okay, if you can only get from 128 to 146 with PEDs, how would you ever get to 200 pounds eventually? Like, if 4 years on PEDs, you only gain 16 pounds, where do the 60 extra pounds come from, or 40 or 50 pounds? Okay, so that's my reasoning on why this guy must have been natural at 17. Plus, he's in this small town. SARMs aren't invented yet. Who would he have talked to that would have got him this stuff? It would have been hard to do, okay? And again, no gyno, no acne, and he's a teenager. You'd expect acne as a teen. So anyway, I think he was natural at 17. So, I mean, don't hate me. I'm just saying what I think about this Greg guy. 1 year later, 18 years old, okay? This guy's in grade 12. He enters his first bodybuilding contest and wins the lightweight division. Lightweight is under 154 pounds, and he weighed 147 pounds at weigh-in, but then lost 3 more pounds as the day went on. Like you weigh in and then you dehydrate. So he was only 144 pounds on stage, roughly, okay? Could be off by 1 or 2 pounds, but that's pretty accurate. He then gets drug tested and passes, and the heavyweight gets drug tested and fails, and nothing is brought to attention of this, so he doesn't even know until 6 months later when they tell him that the heavyweight actually failed a drug test and that he ended up actually winning overall. But they just didn't talk about it, didn't take trophies away. In the magazines, they just said, you know, lightweight first, heavyweight first, didn't mention anything about failed drug tests. Is the fact that he passed that drug test mean he's natural? No! He might have taken tests and cycled off and just passed. But on the day of that event, he was natural, at least on that day. I mean, he might have taken something else, but then stopped and passed. Passing one test is kind of meaningless other than the day of the event. Couple years go by. Fast forward, age 20, when he goes to his national championship show. He gets 3rd place at junior nationals in men's lightweight division and wins 4th place in the same show in men's bantamweight. Bantamweight is under 143.5 pounds. So this dude weighed in under 143.5 pounds at age 20. And as we know, he was 128 pounds in grade 9 or whatever at 13. So he's up 15 pounds in 7 years. Now, mind you, obviously he's leaner because he's done a bodybuilding show, but I don't think he's on anything. 143 pounds with 10 years of training with good genetics. It seems possible that he could have been a pathetically puny manlet of 143 pounds. How did he win a bodybuilding show? 3rd at Nationals Junior? They must have sucked. They must have been horrible. 4th in men's bantam against adults with 143 pounds? That's not even big enough for men's physique. I don't know, maybe the Canadians suck in bodybuilding or something back then, because how could this loser Greg Doucette place high with no muscle? Well, then I looked at the pictures and I was like, man, he does seem pretty cut, and he has that good shape and the symmetry, and the muscles kind of stood out. So I'm like, well, I guess it's not all about size. You can actually do good if you're not like huge. Because obviously he didn't do bad. He got 3rd and 4th place at national. Maybe he was on Clen or T3. I mean, maybe he got that from somewhere because that's a fat burner. So maybe he was taking that to get ripped, but it wasn't building muscle. However, I'm still thinking this was like 24 years ago. I don't know, maybe the internet was invented, but I don't think there was websites selling peptides and things like that. And I still think it would have been really hard to get a fat burner like that. I do know he started to use caffeine pills when he was in his early 20s, and at 22 he took his first ephedrine. So, man, if he took his first ephedrine at 22 and caffeine pills in his 20s, I feel like he probably didn't use Clen and T3 if he wasn't even using ephedrine and caffeine. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me logically as I analyze this guy, who I've never met. I don't know who he is. All right, at age 22, he enters an official powerlifting meet. Okay. He's drug tested and passed. So that's a good sign. He was probably natural on the day of the drug test because, I mean, he passed the test. We don't know. Maybe he took something and came off, whatever. But he was for sure natural on that day. He bench pressed a junior and world record in the bench press, which was also a senior Canadian record of 341.7 pounds, weighing a 148. So he's in the 148.5 pounds in underweight class. So he's now 22 years old, weighing 148 pounds. That is tiny as a twerp. Anyone can have muscle like that. He can't be on juice. What do you guys think? He's 148 pounds, 22. He was 128 pounds at 13. He hardly grew anything. I don't know. I think he must not know how to train. But his strength is crazy. 341 bench, paused in an official meet with refs and judges. He's got genetics for strength. He must have a big chest or something. I don't know. He's doing something right, but he's certainly not building much muscle. He squatted only 275. That's pathetic. 22 years old, that's all he could squat, and his deadlift was 355. I know women who can lift more than that. So I guess he probably was just only good at bench press. He must have specialized in that and like focused on that or something. At age 23, he stopped seriously training for triathlons after basically peaking out his fitness levels. The guy was training 20 hours a week of hard cardio while weightlifting. And so I really think that all that extreme, intense, like running, bike, swim, all that was hindering his muscular development. You can't progress in both cardiovascular and muscle building, ideally, at the same time. They're two different pathways for growth and recovery and fitness and all this. And I don't want to get too complicated, but if you train 20 hours a week of hard cardio, it's going to limit how much muscle you can put on. So he slowed back that on, and he still did a little bit of like bike riding stuff, but slowed way down and focused more on the weightlifting. Then he seemed like he gained a little bit of muscle, like 3 pounds a year after that, which seems reasonable based on studies on how much a natural person can gain per year. He did several powerlifting meets and got drug tested in every single one and passed all of them, and was breaking Canadian records in every single meet he entered, and ended up getting 14 records for Canada. Okay, so that's pretty impressive to pass 14 drug tests in a row. It's likely that he was natural during those drug tests. I mean, he might have been some super god genetic freak of knowledge where he knew exactly when to cycle on and off, but his body weight was so small and his muscles were so, it just doesn't make sense that he would be on something. So back to bodybuilding. At age 25, he wins the men's lightweight nationals. This is not tested. So he enters a not tested meet and wins. That is suspicious. Why would he go in a non-tested meet? Well, maybe just because he thought he could win, and he did. But then a week later, he enters the drug-tested nationals and wins lightweight there. So if he was natural on the day of the tested meet, I mean, if he cycled off, I don't know. I just think he's natural. I just don't shoot the messenger. He weighed 149 pounds. He's 25 years old. Where is the muscle? How did he win nationals with his manlet, puny, pipsqueak body? I mean, granted, the dude was pretty shredded, but where's the muscle at? It makes no sense. From 2000 to 2006, he had switched over into a drug-tested organization, WNSO it was called, and he had won the drug-tested amateur overall championship award for the world title, turned pro, and then won the pro drug-tested world championships. So that was pretty good accomplishment, and you can see his weight was going up around 3 to 5 pounds one year. The next year, he doesn't gain any. He gains a couple pounds here and there. And so for those 6 years, he'd put on about 18 pounds of muscle, roughly 3 pounds a year. So in 2006, he entered the drug-tested Canadian National Championships at 169 pounds and passed the drug test and won welterweight or middleweight and overall. Now, that would normally give you an IFBB Pro card, but back then, there was no Pro cards given. So this is 2006. Let's examine that body weight, 169 pounds. Let's look at the fat-free mass index. So basically, it says, if you're natural, you can't be over 25. But I don't give two poops about this fat-free mass index. It was invented using bodybuilders from like the 1950s who didn't know what they were doing, and not even a whole lot of them. And it was determined that, yeah, this is the limit of natural growth. So at 169 pounds, his fat-free mass index was 25 point something, like 25.5. And the limit's 25. So according to that, it can't be natural. But he passed the drug test, and it doesn't seem like that much muscle, to be honest. He was now 31 years old and had been training for 21 years. That is a long time to train, and he was doing both powerlifting and bodybuilding. And so he did seem to make a noticeable change when he cut back from doing all the triathlon competitions. So I really do believe that he was natural. I think that he stopped doing so much cardio focus and saw that he had some real potential in bodybuilding and took it more seriously than ever, and was gaining and doing so in his 20s and progressing towards his genetic limit. So that's what I think. I still think he was natural at this point. Fast forward to early 2009, around late March, early April, he competes in his last drug-tested bodybuilding championship title, which was the World Qualifier Canadian National Drug-Tested Championships. He competed in that show, winning middleweight, losing the overall, at 174.5 pounds. So this is 5 pounds, for those of you who can add in math, 5 pounds heavier than he was 3 years prior when he won the overall title, okay? So it's a lot less than that 3 pounds of muscle that you could kind of expect. So he's clearly near his genetic limit here, and the gains are definitely slowing down. He competes, wins the show, and then gets asked to do a photo shoot for Inside Fitness magazine. And about a week later, he does a photo shoot and records a video. The video's on YouTube, and he claims, you know, here I am posing, 179 pounds. And you're thinking, well, wasn't he just 174.5? But that's not dehydrated. So when people compete, they don't drink any water the day of the event type thing to really shrink wrap the muscle to get that much leaner. So 179 pounds, it makes sense that he would be a few pounds heavier than on stage shredded weight, okay? So he does that. Do I think he was natural there? Yes, it just seems to make sense. He's only a few pounds up from before. Remember, this guy's been training over 20 years to this point, okay? Fast forward another 7 months later, and this is for sure where he loses his natty status. In 2009, he fails a powerlifting drug test. Fails. He failed the drug test. So after 16 past tests in a row, he finally fails. So does that mean he was natural for those 16 previous ones, or does it mean that he was probably on steroids for those 16? Well, in powerlifting, they stripped him of every single record he had ever made in his life. Even when he was 22 years old and passing all those drug tests he paid for. They stripped all the records, took out the Greg Doucette records. I think there was 14, stripped them out, and all the new records were the next place guy, and they were all like 100 and something pounds lower in the bench press. Like, this Greg guy was a freak in the bench. He was literally setting records by 100 pounds more than the second best guy. He went to IPF Worlds and got third, drug tested, obviously, and passed. He went to the Pan American Games and won first place. He went to the Arnold Classic and was drug tested 2 days in a row, where he won the raw powerlifting meet, and then he won the equipped, where you wear like a bench press fancy shirt and all that stuff, okay? So he was drug tested 2 days in a row and passed all those tests, and then passed these drug tested bodybuilding. There was the natural tested meet was 3 weeks after these Arnold meets. So I remember hearing, well, there was rumor that this Greg Doucette guy was eating salads after the weigh-in because he couldn't have the calories because he was dieting for a bodybuilding show. But anyway, I remember he competed at 181 pounds in powerlifting back then, and then he did the bodybuilding and he got down to like 169, but obviously they're like super dehydrated.
Very, very, very dehydrated.
Getting back to it, he fails the test. What's he failed for? Boldenone metabolites. Okay, well, what's that? Boldenone is equipoise, EQ. So the metabolites, not actually the EQ, but the metabolites. So EQ metabolites would stay in your system for maybe like a year, for example. So it wouldn't have been in his system on the day of the meet, but it must have gotten into his body at some point. So obviously he was taking something because he failed the test. He also had a epi-test ratio of like 12 to 1 or 8 to 1 or something. It used to be that 12 to 1 was considered allowable, and then they lowered it to 8, and then I think 6 to 1. And it's just like a conversion on a drug test to be able to see, like, does this make sense or is it a little skewy? So something was off. But what's really strange is at this powerlifting meet where he failed, he lifted like poop. He actually lifted way less than he did at all the other powerlifting meets that he had done where he'd been drug tested in the past. So it's very strange that he would fail the drug test, but yet be weaker. You would think having added steroids or SARMs, whatever at this point, that his lifts would have gone way up. Because he had bench pressed 572 pounds with with those bench shirts. It's like cheating anyway. And then he couldn't even get 500 pounds at this meet. He literally bombed out with couldn't even bench press 500 pounds with a shirt that helps 100 pounds versus 570 at the time at his best. So it's weird that he would fail and be weaker after adding steroids. So I don't know what to say, but obviously he failed the drug test, so he's clearly not natural at this point, 2009. Then what happens after 2009? This is where it goes crazy. This is where it obviously that he's not natural anymore. So obvious. His best bench went from 315 for 23 reps to 315 for 32 reps in 3 months. Nobody at their genetic limit goes and improves from 23 reps to 32 reps. His deadlift went up 100 pounds in 3 months. He's at his genetic limit. You don't get to your genetic limit slowly, a little bit here, and then boom, 100 pounds. So he obviously was on something at this point. It's like crazy growth. He bench pressed over 500 pounds raw with no shirt after not lifting 500 pounds with the bench press shirt, which helps 100 pounds, in 3 months. Obviously, he's on steroids from 2009, obviously. Then, what does he do? He enters the Nova Scotia Provincial Championships 3 years later in 2012. What does he do? He wins heavyweight and overall. Not natural. He weighed in above 198 pounds. No way is he natural. Think about it. He went from being 169 in 2006, and then all of a sudden he fails the test in 2009, and then in 2012 he weighs in over 198 pounds, wins overall? No, that's not possible. Obviously not natural. Then 4 months later, he goes to the Canadian Nationals, cuts down to light heavyweight, which is just under 198, wins light heavy, and then in the overall gets a second pro card with Antoine Vaillant, beating out Dura and Zane Watson, who won the heavyweight championship, and Dura, who'd won middleweight. Obviously, the guy's not natural. He put on like 20 pounds of muscle in this short period of time. Something happened. The guy was at his genetic limit. He had no more muscle to grow. Maybe a pound, if he's lucky, and he puts on 20 pounds. Not natural. So obviously, the evidence to me is clear. Something happened in 2009. He obviously wasn't natural anymore. And then whatever. Oh, and to bring this up, he was at a bike race. Think of it, this loser cheater. He posts on Instagram, "Hi, I'm on doctor prescribed HRT and I'm entering a bike race." He enters the C group for just one step above novice lifters. And this guy's cheating, taking testosterone. He's 205 pounds to compete against 130-pound bike riders. How is that fair? As if a little skinny bike rider could keep up with a pro bodybuilder. Look at that. No bike rider can keep up with all this muscle. Actually, I'm full of shit here. Bigger muscles don't make you faster at bike riding. It slows you down. The guy, there's no way he's trying to cheat the bike race. He just enters not knowing. And then they show up and drug test him, likely because somebody saw the post on Instagram. "Oh, guys, I'm entering a race." And then some hater obviously hates him. And then they send somebody to drug test. And he just says, "No, I'm not going to get drug tested," because he knows he's going to fail because he's on testosterone. And he was on edibles the night before. Don't tell anyone about that. It's a secret just between us. So So he would have failed for cannabis because obviously that's a banned substance. And clearly he was using that to cheat too because that gives him an unfair sleeping and hunger advantage. He cheated on the bike thing. He got 8-year ban. People have been writing this in the comments. And people have been requesting a video. Is Greg natural? Also, they wonder, is this Greg guy a doctor? And I did some extensive research. And this liar is no doctor. No, he's not even a doctor. Apparently, he's got a master's degree in kinesiology. And I looked it up and he did win awards for highest average. So he did seem like he was a smart guy, but I don't know. He's definitely not natural from 2009 onwards. But after watching a few of his videos, he actually posted the cycle he used to turn pro. So he admittedly isn't natural. And he admittedly posted that he was on HRT for the bike race. So it's not like he was deceptively sneaking under the radar trying to get away with it. So anyway, apparently he used to be natural. I believe him. I do. It's up to you. I gave you the evidence. You can believe what you want, right? If you think he's natural, if he's not natural. You know, what you think, write some comments. And hopefully you enjoyed the video and my take on this Greg Douche guy. Greg Doucette. Greg Douche. Greg Douchebag. Yeah, annoying guy with the annoying voice. Subscribe and click the bell button so you can get the swoosh and like the video and make comments. Say how much you hate that Greg guy or how much you like him. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Just make comments and interact. It helps with the algorithm, so do that. Oh yeah, I gotta start drinking my pre-workout. This is me ranting, sick, and before my pre-workout, which is 3/4 a scoop of Rise, Tiger's Blood Blackout with some pump unflavored from Rise. Going to train because I missed 2 days in a row because I've been so freaking sick. Trust me, for me to not go to the gym, I'm on my deathbed. I was so sick. So, if you want to see more Natty or Not videos, there's one here, another Natty or Not video right there. GregDoucette.com is his website. Greg Doucette, IFBB Pro. Follow this guy on Instagram and just like troll him, don't troll him, do whatever. He gets so pissed off and he likes to argue with people. Anyway, I am out.